If you've been calling yourself lazy lately, I want you to pause for a second. Because what if you're not lazy at all? What if the reason you can't get out of bed, the reason you avoid starting things, the reason everything feels heavier than it should, isn't laziness? What if you're just exhausted in ways no one sees? Somewhere along the way, we turned productivity into personality. If you wake up early, you're disciplined. If you work nonstop, you're ambitious. If you're always busy, you're successful. But if you slow down, if you hesitate, if you struggle to start, suddenly you're lazy. That's the story we were given. You scroll through social media and everyone looks like they're building something, starting a business, going to the gym, studying every day, posting achievements, smiling in perfectly edited photos. And you look at yourself and think, why can't I just do it? Why is everything so hard for me? Why am I like this? But you're not comparing your life to their life. You're comparing your real moments to their highlight reel. And your brain quietly absorbs the message that if you're not constantly improving, constantly grinding, constantly moving, then something must be wrong with you. So you call yourself lazy. But there's a type of tired that sleep doesn't fix. It's not physical, it's emotional. It's the kind of exhaustion that builds slowly from overthinking, from worrying about the future, from replaying conversations in your head, from trying to be enough for everyone around you. You can spend the whole day doing nothing and still feel completely drained. Because you weren't resting, you were surviving. You were carrying pressure, you were comparing yourself, you were questioning your worth, you were trying to figure life out. That's not laziness, that's mental overload. Burnout doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't always look like breakdowns or quitting everything. Most burnout is quiet. It looks like procrastination. It looks like, I'll do it later. It looks like staring at the ceiling instead of starting. It looks like avoiding messages. It looks like feeling stuck. And sometimes procrastination isn't avoidance. Sometimes it's protection. Your brain sees pressure. It sees fear of failure. It sees expectations that feel too big. And it chooses delay, not because you're lazy, but because it's trying to protect you from more stress. Nobody talks about how heavy it is to constantly feel like you should be further in life. At 16, you should know what you want to become. At 18, you should have a plan. At 20, you should be building something. At 25, you should be stable. Should. And when you don't meet those invisible deadlines, you blame yourself. But maybe you're not lazy. Maybe you're overwhelmed by expectations that were never yours to carry. There's also fear. Fear of trying and failing. Fear of starting and not finishing. Fear of proving your worst thoughts right. So you don't start at all. And then you say, I'm just lazy. But if you were truly lazy, you wouldn't feel guilty about it. You wouldn't lie awake at night thinking about what you should have done. Laziness doesn't come with shame. Exhaustion does. Self-doubt does. We also live in a world where your brain never rests. Notifications, news, short videos, constant information. Your nervous system is always on. And then you sit down to focus and your brain says, no. Not because you're lazy, because it's overloaded. You can't focus when you've never stopped absorbing. You can't create when you've never been still. Sometimes we think we're resting, but we're actually escaping. Scrolling isn't rest. Numbing out isn't rest. Avoiding isn't rest. Real rest feels uncomfortable at first because it's quiet. And in quiet moments, you hear your thoughts.
That's why you feel tired even after doing nothing, because your mind never stopped. Instead of asking, why am I so lazy? Try asking, what is draining me? Is it comparison? Is it pressure? Is it fear? Is it constant stimulation? Is it trying to prove something? Laziness is rarely the root problem, it's usually a symptom. One of the biggest lies we believe is that we're behind in life. Behind who? Everyone is moving at different speeds in completely different directions, but the internet compresses everything into one timeline and makes you feel late. You're not late. You're just human. You're not lazy. You're tired. Tired of expectations, tired of comparing, tired of trying to be productive every second, tired of feeling like you're not enough. And exhaustion doesn't mean weakness, it means you've been carrying too much for too long. Maybe today, instead of forcing yourself to move faster, you allow yourself to slow down. Not quit, not give up, just breathe. Growth doesn't happen when you shame yourself. It happens when you understand yourself. You're not lazy. You're exhausted. And you deserve real rest, not guilt.